All right. And welcome to today's session of Truly Foundation and a Course in Miracles with your host, your guide, your teacher, your coach, Oliver Blue. And I'm delighted to be here. And I hope that you are the same. It is a great moment. It is a great holy moment, a great holy instant in which we get to affirm the truth that is true always. This is what we get to do, to affirm the truth that is true always. And not only true about one, but is true about all, because all is one. And it is so extraordinary to enter into what we call a shared oneness, a shared life, a shared interest, a shared being, a shared reality, a shared love. That is infinite, that is impersonal, and that is self aware of this oneness, of this glorious beauty, this glorious light that is penetrating and permeating, mean that it is everywhere. And it fills all the spaces, the interspaces, the outer spaces. It fills everything. It fills all the interspaces of the universe. And we are a part of that. We are one with that. We are that. Every time you say, I am, you are saying, I am that. I am. You're saying you are what God is. You're saying that there's only the one. You're saying that God is and there is nothing else. That love is, reality is, eternity is, and there is nothing else. Wow. What an awesome space to be in. What an awesome revelation to have. What an awesome reality to be self-aware of. Are you self-aware of this? Because this is what I'm describing here. It's not for the few, the proud, or just the Marines. But what I'm talking about here is an all-encompassing love, an all-encompassing reality that none of us can escape. You cannot escape your innocence. You cannot escape your holiness, meaning your wholeness and your completeness. You cannot escape your perfection. You cannot escape your changeless and unalterable self. You cannot change what we call here at Truly Foundation. You cannot change. Let me put it up. I don't know why I didn't have that up. You cannot change the real you that loves you. You cannot change what God created. None of us. And we don't want to. We don't want to. What we do want to change is our mind about a false self that we made up, about a world of a false world that we made up. And to hand everything over to the whole Spirit of God, to the whole plan of God, to the whole reality of God, and allow our Creator to choose for us. Allow that Holy Spirit, that whole Spirit to choose for us. Because there's only one choice to be made. There's only one life to live. There's only one love to experience. There's only one being to share. And it is right here and right now. I introduce myself as your temporary guide, your temporary host, your temporary coach, your temporary teacher as my wife walks into the room. Hello, darling. All right. And I only say temporary because what? There is a permanent teacher that is one with all of us. And you say, did you give yourself that position, that title? And I would say, I would respond to that, yes. And that's based on what the course says over in the manual for teachers. I will, baby. That is, and I make that statement based on what the course says over in this section called the Manual for Teachers in the back of the Course in Miracles. And it acts as I love the Course in Miracles because a lot of the sections are written in question form, just like we're in this section, what is the Holy Spirit? Now, in the back of the course book in the Manual for Teachers, there's a section here for like a manual for teachers. Well, who are teachers? So the question here is, who are God's teachers? Who are God's teachers? You know, man has a system for producing what you would call teachers of God or teachers of what they call the gospel. But then God, here in the course, there is a qualification here that the course says this is God's way of identifying what a teacher of God is. So it's going to ask the question, so what is a God's teacher? And it says, and this is on page 3 in the Manual for Teachers, under the subject, what are God's teachers? What are they? It didn't say who are they. It says what? It says who are God's teacher. It does says who are they? Who are the teachers of God? And it says the teacher of God is anyone who chooses to be one. So to be a teacher of God, it comes through choice. Not by choice of man, but by the individual choice. By the individual choice, it says a teacher of God is anyone who chooses to be one. Let's think about that. Now, I know there are ecclesiastical systems and organizations and all of that in the world, and they serve their intent is good. But I'm just sharing with you from the Course in Miracles idea of who is a teacher of God. And this is a God idea. It says a teacher of God is anyone who chooses to be one. His qualifications consist solely in this. In other words, it said a teacher of God only has one qualification. Now, this is different than what you would find out in the world, in the systems, in the religious systems, in the communities. I'm not knocking those. I'm just sharing with you what the Course says. It says his qualifications or her qualification. It's not a gender thing. It says their qualifications consist solely of this or this one thing. I love God because God is all about one. God is so simple. We make God so complex in our thinking. And we build everything so complex where it makes it difficult for people to understand. But God is very simple. God said there's only one qualification for a teacher of God. That's what the Course says here. Only one. It said solely in this. His qualifications or her qualification is solely in this. That somehow and somewhere they have made a deliberate choice in which they did not see their interests as apart from someone or anyone else's. God said that is the sole qualification to be a teacher of God. What does that mean? Is that anyone could be a teacher who chooses to be one. But one will not choose to be one unless that they make a deliberate choice of not seeing that there are these multiple interests, that there are these multiplicities of purposes and multiplicities of interests, but there's only one interest, and that interest is the same. That one begin to see that there is one humanity, there's one God, there's one life, there's one universe, there's one of every, that's just one thing, that we're all in this one thing together. Therefore, our interest is one interest. God calls it will, the will of God. And then the one that we hold dear as an example, at least I do, which is Jesus of Nazareth as a man. In his incarnation, he came to the conclusion that not my will, but what let thy will be done, that there's only the one will, that the Son of God and the Son of Man, the Son of God in humanity only has one will, that the interest of humanity is the interest of God, that God has humanity's interests and hold it in more esteem than any man could ever know or any man could ever imagine. That it is the will of God that we all come to know our true self, that we all come to know the knowledge, that we come into the knowledge of the truth of who we are and the oneness that we share with each other and with God. He says, so once a person understands this, that they can choose, they can make a deliberate decision because they have seen that there's only one interest. There's only one will, and it's the will of the Father. And that we all share without exception in that interest, in that will. That's the only qualification that one that one have to have in order to become a teacher of God. Because when one grabs this awareness and this revelation of love, they will teach only love. They will not teach specialness. They will not teach separation. They will not teach sin, consciousness, guilt, and fear. They will not teach anything but the oneness of God and the oneness that we share. And so it says that is the sole qualification. That somehow, somewhere, they have made a deliberate choice in which they do not see their interests as apart from someone else's interest, that there is only the one interest, that there is only the one will, and it's the will of our Creator, it's the will of our Father, that we all will eventually wake up to this reality. That is the will of God. And not only the will of God, is that it is guaranteed by God. It's a promise of God that he guarantees that all humanity will eventually wake up to their true self. God promised that. When he could swear by no greater, he swore by himself. You can live 1,000 lifetimes of trying to find your reality, but you will find your reality. And it might seem like 1,000 lifetimes, but in reality, it is no lifetime, in the sense that the separation never occurred. So it's not that we were lost. It was that we fell asleep and dreamed of a experience that created us as these individual selves that are separate from each other and from our Creator. But in reality, heaven remains intact. Who you are as the creation of God, it remains intact. Love has remained intact. None of the recorded history has changed reality. We remain in the heart of God, where we've always been. And that is the qualification of a teacher of God. It says, once he has done that, his road is established and his direction is sure. Once one has made the choice to be one, once one has acknowledged the qualification of making a deliberate choice, and do not see that their interest is separate from anyone else, that there's only one, and there's only one interest. And then it says, once he has done that, his road is established and his direction is sure. A light has entered the darkness. So he's calling the teacher of God as a light. He said the light has entered the darkness. What is the darkness? The darkness is representative. It's only representative of a mind that still believes that it's in separation. A mind that still believes that it is in sin and guilt and fear. A mind that believes that it is under the judgment, under some kind of judgment, that it has done something so wrong. A mind that still believes that it has to go into isolation, that it has to hide out. A mind that believes that it is limited to a finite world and a finite body. A mind that still believes, based on an ego thought system of separation, and don't really know that it has been completely set free from that dream. That's where the light goes. Jesus said it this way. He said, you are the light of the world, but you don't know that until you wake up, until you embrace this reality, embrace your true, whole, complete, innocent self. Then the light shines. And so as each one makes that decision to embrace the truth, the light gets brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter in a world that has miscreated, in a world that has a belief founded in a falsity, in a false self, in a body mind identification, in a in a limiting finite world. It says the light enters the darkness. It may be a single light, because when one makes a decision to wake up to this truth, it's a single light. It said may be a single light. It says, but that is enough. And Our elder brother proved that it only takes one. He became the savior of the entire world just through his awakening, and was able to reconcile all humanity back to God. See, he proved that it only takes one. It doesn't take a herd. It doesn't take a tribe. It doesn't take a team. It doesn't take any of the ideas of mankind, but it only takes the one thought of God. it says it may be a single light, but it is enough. It says it is enough. It says he has entered an agreement with God. That the teacher of God has entered into an agreement with God. That the teacher of God knows that there's only the one will. That's why Jesus says, when you pray that what? That it be on earth as it is in heaven. Let thy will be done. Let thy one interest be put on display. That's what he meant. That is enough. He says he has entered into an agreement with God, not with man. The teacher of God enters into an agreement with God, not with man, not with systems, not with organizations, but enter into an agreement with God. He has entered into an agreement with God, even if he does not yet even believe in God. He may not believe in God, but he believes in the oneness. He have seen the light. He believes in the oneness that we share, the one interest, the one will, the one reality. Isn't this something? It says he may not even at this point believe in God, but he believed in the idea of God, and that is the idea that we're all one. That's why you see the expression of this oneness message in many, many different paths, in many, many different places, in many, many different expressions. Why? Because that is what is foremost, most important. This is not a personality contest. This is not a religious contest, but this is an awakening to the reality of our oneness. That's what life is all about. And now, having made an agreement, and now having this one shared interest, and now understanding that all things are the one things, and that all things are all encompassing, that this love that we share is all encompassing, that there is no specialness, that there is no separation, that there is no differences. All these things that we have put ahead of the light, that we have put ahead of the oneness, that we have put ahead of the sole purpose, the sole reality of the oneness of God and our oneness with God. So all of these things, all of these processes, all of these requirements, all of these heavy burdens that we have laid upon each other. He said, you have entered into an agreement with God. Let's think about this. He has entered an agreement with God, even if he does not yet believe in him. He has become a bringer of salvation based on his sole qualification, based on his decision to be a teacher, based on his choice to deliberately choose that there is only the one interest. He has become a bringer of salvation, the bringer of revelation, the bringer of freedom, the bringer of truth. So this is an individual choice that one makes. Based on an awareness, based on a recognition that God is. And there is nothing else. There's only the one. And we are part of that one. It says he has become a teacher of God. He has become a teacher of God. It says they come from all over the world. They come from all religions and from no religions. They are the ones who have answered the call, who have answered. It says the call is universal. It's a universal call. Universal means that it has one purpose, one song, one reality. It's a universal call. And the call has gone out into all the universe. And so all the inhabitants of the universe, the call has gone out to. Everyone, none excluded. It goes on all the time, everywhere. The call does. It calls for teachers to speak for it and redeem the world. It says, let me read that again. It says, it calls for teachers to speak for it and redeem the world. Many hear it. Many hear the call, but few will. Notice now, it says few will answer, but few will answer. Yet, it is all a matter of time. Everything is just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time that only the will of God shall prevail. Everywhere, among everyone, and for all time. It's just a matter of time. And so if this be the truth that is true always, and when one comes to know this and embrace this, therein lies the peace of God. We hear people say, I want the peace of God that passes all understanding. It's been avoiding me. It's been aloof from me. I cannot find it. Well, the peace of God is not somewhere. The peace of God is the recognition of what we're saying here. That there's only one. And we are part of that one. Not as something separate, but we are oneness, joined as one. We are the holy representation of the one God, of the one life, of the one love. And when we realize this, our life will begin to teach this. Teach only love, because this is who we are. But when we teach anything other than love, when we demonstrate anything other than love, then what are we representing? And what are we teaching? And so it says, many hear it, but few will answer. Yet it is all a matter of time. Everyone will answer in the end. This is God's guarantee. Everyone will answer in the end. But the end can be a long, long way off. It is because of this that the plan of the teachers was established. It's because of this that teachers became necessary. It's because of this that teachers became necessary. It says, their function is to save time. If you're listening to a teacher of God, that teacher of God will help you to save time. It will help you it will save you 1,000 years of suffering. Your teacher, a true teacher of God, they will save you 1,000 years of suffering. They will save you many more lifetimes by the truth that they are sharing. They will save you a lot of pain. They will save you from a false belief and a false self. They will save you from the false belief in a system and in a world that we made. That is the source of all the perceived problems. It says they will save you time. He said their function is to save time. Each one begins as a single light, but with the call at its center, it is a light that cannot be limited. A real teacher of God, his light will not be limited. In other words, there is no limitation in its or his or her awareness of this infinite connection, this infinite nature, this impersonal and self-aware nature that we all are part of. There's no limit. There's no limit to the sharing of the endless, the borderless, the infinite, the eternal reality that we all share, that we stand in right now, not something in the future. It says their function is to save time. Each one begins as a single light, but with the call at its center. So it is the call that is at the center. It is a light that cannot be limited. And each one saves 1,000 years of time. Here it is right here. Each one saves 1,000 years of time. You don't have to live more lifetimes. When you embrace the reality of what your true self is, you don't have to keep regurgitating time. You come to realize that time is an illusion. You come to realize that all that we made as a substitute for God, it's all an illusion. And that there is no past, there is no future, that there's only the now. And in that reality, time is not only saved, but time will eventually, what? Be no more. Because it won't be required, it won't be necessary. Time is only necessary because there are still some sons and daughters that are asleep, thinking they're something that they're not understanding the reality that they remain as God created them, as whole and complete and innocent and pure and holy and righteous. All of us. It says, and each one saves 1,000 years of time as the world judges time. To the call itself, time has no meaning. Because to the call, the one that answers the call is the one that is awakened. And when you awake, you wake up from time and from limitation. You wake up from the falsity of a world that is dreamlike, that is hallucination infused, that is a vain imagining, that is a fantasy. But you wake up to the real world, as we've gone over. What is the real world? It is having the mind of Christ. It's having it's having the vision of God. It's knowing who you are. It's becoming one with who you are. It's becoming the light that you are and the light that we share. He says it here. Time has no meaning. A time still appear to tick from minute to hour, to day, to week, to month, to year. It seems that way. But when you awake to the reality that you stand in eternity right now, Time doesn't exist for you. Time does not exist for you because time cannot hold you. Time cannot uh time cannot hold your infinite, your eternal self. And so we transcend that in time. You do this in time. It's called the enlightened one, the awakened one. So this is a course for every teacher of God. Oh, it says this is a course for every teacher of God. The form of the course varies greatly. So do the particular teaching aids involved. So he said here, there's many teaching aids. He says there's many forms of the course. So we cannot lay our eggs all on, say, all of it's in one, or all of it is one. You know how we say, well, this is it. And don't show me anything else. God's not doing anything new. God's not doing anything. God did it all. God didn't said it all. God didn't expressed it all. There's no end to God. God continued to be this multifaceted expression of an infinite awareness. And that is what we are part of. And so he says, this is a course for every teacher of God. Not particularly a course in miracles, but the course in the awareness and the awakening and the reality of this one self-interest that we all have. It says the form of the course varies greatly. So do the particular teaching aids involved. That's why I tell you, I use many resources. Just right now, I'm doing this project for A Course in Miracles, and that's the main resource. But I use many, many other resources. Why? Because it says here, it says that the form varies. That's why I still use my old King James Bible. Because you can find these realities all over the place. It's just that in some places you gotta extract the good and forgive the rest. It says that so do the particular teaching aids involved. They vary. But the content of the course never changes. It says the main substance of the course doesn't change, even though it may be in different forms, different renderings. It says, but the content doesn't change. In other words, the message, the self-interest, the one interest, the one will does not change. But the content of the course never changes. So what we all should and is required to know, it does not change. It may come in a different form, in a different shape, in a different size, from a different part of the world. But the core message is the same. It says its central theme, or the central message of the one message of the one course that we all must take, which we don't get to choose the content. We get to choose when we take it, but we don't get to choose the content. What is the thing that we must learn? What is the thing that we must embrace? It says it does not change. Here it is right here. It says the content of the course never changes. Its central theme is always. The central theme is always. And here it is. It says God's creation, God's son, God's daughter, however you want to put it. But what God created, which is all of us, all humanity, is guiltless. This is the message. This is the central thing. This is the central interest. This is for everyone. No exceptions. There are no exceptions. There will be no exceptions. Everyone will eventually wake up to this reality. He guarantees it. This is the plan of God. This is not the plan of man. This is the plan of God. He says, and you'll notice in God's plan is all encompassing. It is all inclusive. There are no exceptions. There are no backup plans. There's no secondary plans. There's no permissive, like they say, permissive will. God's permissive will. God, no, it's only the perfect will of God. And it's only one will, only one message. It's only one reality. And that is that God created humanity. God created humanity. Not as bodies, not as separate selves, but created humanity by extending its very own self. And so we share in that extension. That's what's called creation. This is so important that one gets this. Creation doesn't mean you take something else. You take a form and you make something else. That's not creation. That's making. God doesn't make anything. To make something means you use another source. To create something means what? You are the source. So God took his very own self and extended himself and called it his creation. He called it, this is I am, that I am. Not as something separate, but something one with. And this is who we are. This is what has never changed. This is what we're all coming to realize. This is the central theme. This is the function. This is the thing that will save us time. This is the thing that will save you 1,000 lifetimes. This is the awareness. This is the expanded consciousness that we all desire. And you're hearing it from me. Because I chose to be a teacher of God, because I came to a place where I understood that there's nothing but one. I understood that we are all one and the same. And so what I would have for myself, I would have for everyone. What God, this is the will of God. What God would have for himself, he placed it in his creation. He placed it in you and me. This is our reality. Not the birth that we, in the government name and number that we acquired through an experience of becoming the Son of Man. But the creation that goes way before there was any creation, way before there was any time, any space, way before anything was made. And so here is the central theme. Here is the message that doesn't change. Here is the content of your reality, that you are guiltless. And in your innocence, notice now, it is in your innocence, because that is all that you are. That's all that you've ever been. No life, no dream of a life of separation could ever change your innocence or your guiltlessness. God's Son is guiltless. You are guiltless. And in your innocence is your salvation. It's in your innocence. It is in the innocence of God that is your salvation. That is the guarantee that you have, that you are whole and complete. This is the guarantee. Like he said in Hebrews, when he could swear by no greater, God swore by himself that surely you are innocent. Surely you are whole. Surely you are complete. Surely you are sinless and guiltless. You are a part of this infinite entity that we call God, that we call the universe, that excludes nothing but includes everything. The Creator's creation is guiltless. If you're dealing with guilt, still dealing with guilt and sin consciousness, fear that brings torment, if you still seeing yourself as unworthy, if you still seeing yourself as unfit, if you're still seeing yourself loaded down with the labels of the world, loaded down with your past, what you call your past mistakes, your past problems, your past sins. That's what we say. That's what we were trained to say. That's what we were programmed to say. That's what we were conditioned to think. If you're still burdened and heavy laden with these things, I'm here to say they have no meaning. They have nothing in you or on you. And so you can just let it go. Your reality has not changed. You remain as God created you. And God created you guiltless and innocent and whole. And when you shift your thinking, when you embrace this reality for yourself, everything changes. Everything changes here. And when everything changes here, everything will change in the space around you. It will begin to change. It must change. Because what is around you and what you perceive to be around you from a mind that believes that it is split and separate and gone prodigal. It just seems that that's what's around you because that's what that mind has been projecting. Now that you have embraced the mind of Christ, your guiltless, your innocence, your mind that is equal with God and with everyone else, it will begin to what? It will begin to produce. It will begin to change the form around you. It will begin to change the circumstances and the situations and conditions around you. Because this mind is what is projecting and what has always been projecting what it was seeing in itself. So what needs to be changed and healed is the mind. And the mind becomes this perfect operating mechanism of light. God's son is guiltless. God's daughter is guiltless. And in your innocence is your salvation. It can be taught by actions, or it can be taught by thoughts, in words, and it can be taught soundlessly, in any language or in no language, in any place or time or manner. It does not matter who the teacher was before he heard the call. It doesn't matter your past. It doesn't matter your dreams. The only thing that matters is that you answered the call. It says, he has become a savior by his answering, by his acknowledgement, by his recognition of the oneness, by his recognition of the one interest, of the one will. He has seen something else as himself. He has seen his real self. He has let go of his false self, the false identity. He has let go of the world's identity. He has let go of the programming and conditioning of this world. And he has embraced only the thoughts of God. He has seen something else. He has therefore found his own. See, he has therefore found his own salvation. You cannot give away what you have not received for yourself. You cannot offer healing until you've been healed yourself. That's why the Course says that many unhealed healers have gone out into the world and they have created a mess. There are many that are still in the world. There are many unhealed healers. Many unhealed healers that call themselves. And they are teaching separation, and they're teaching specialness. And they're out in the world and they're making a mess. And people are confused. But you don't have to be confused anymore. Know that you are the guiltless one. Know that you are the innocent one. That self-image that you've held about yourself all these years, that didn't make you feel good, that consequently didn't make you talk good, it didn't make you act good, it didn't reflect goodness. You can let all of that go. All of the guilt, all of the shame. Anything that is not in support of your sinlessness, your guiltlessness, and your innocence, let it go. Just let it go. But you can only let it go because what? You have made a decision to embrace the truth of who you are. When you sweep the slate clean, you cannot just leave it unattended. You have to feel it, or you have to recognize that it's already filled with the truth that is true always. And you have become that truth. You have become that light. You're now representing yourself. That's what represent mean. To represent, to present yourself again. Now you're not presenting yourself as a separate self, as a finite self, as an unaware self, or as an unawakened self, but you're representing yourself as one that has its entire being in the image and the likeness of its creator. That as holy as God is, so are you. That as infinite as God is, so are you. As guiltless and as innocent as God is, so are you. You have equality with God. That's what Jesus meant when he spoke through Paul in Philippians, when he said, let this mind be in you that was also in me. Being in the form of God as a man. He said, being in the form of God as a man, as a human. And here we are as humans. He said, understand, you're in the form of God. He said, so don't think that you're taking away anything from God by saying that you have equality with God. That's what he was sharing with Paul in the Philippians. It blew Paul's mind. And it's blown most of humanity's mind, because we say, oh, that was just for Jesus. No, that is for all of us. That is for the one of us, because Jesus is the one of us. And all of us are the one of us. See, this all goes back to oneness. Until you accept the oneness that we share, none of this can be accepted. That's why humanity have dodged its innocence. That's why humanity have dodged its guiltlessness, its sinlessness for all these many years. The majority of the religious community has dodged it. By saying, well, we're just, don't get too high on your horse. We're just sinners saved by grace. God's the only one that's worthy. That doesn't make you feel good. And it's not supposed to make you feel good because it's not the truth. God also spoke to Paul in Ephesians 1 when he said that we are to the praise of his glory. That means that God gets no glory without you. And you get no glory without God. Why? Because you won. You are to the praise. You have been raised to the level of glory. And he said, now we go from glory to glory to glory to glory. And there's no end to our glory. There's no end to our infinite expression. There's no end to life more abundantly. He has become the Savior of the world. That's why you heard me say from the passage the other day that, choose once again if we would take our place among the saviors of the world or remain in hell and hold our brother there. Now that's making sense, right? Because when we don't choose for our freedom, when we don't choose for our innocence, for our guiltlessness, for our sinlessness, when we don't choose for the reality of our oneness with God, we remain in a state, our minds remain in a state. He used the word here, hell, or hellish. Anguish, suffering, pain. We see ourselves as frail. We see life and death is real. We see scarcity and lack is real. We see sickness and disease is real. We see war and fighting is real. He said, but when we embrace our reality, we become the light of the world. We become the saviors of the world, and we take our place there. We become teachers of God. We have answered the call. He has seen someone else as himself. You see all humanity as yourself. You see God as yourself. There is no separation. He has therefore found his own salvation and the salvation of the world. He found it in the oneness, in the recognition. In the recognition of our oneness with God. In the recognition that this reality that we are, it cannot be threatened. It cannot be destroyed. It cannot be broken apart. It cannot be altered. It cannot be changed. We remain as God created us. In his rebirth. That's what Jesus meant when he said, Nicodemus, the way you're looking, you still sleep. You must be born again. That's what he meant. You must awake to this reality of who you are. You must awake to your innocence, your wholeness, your completeness. You must wake to the fact that there is no birth, there is no death, there are no opposites. I proved all of this to you. I proved that death is not real. I proved to you that the body is just an illusion. You must be born again. You must be awakened. You must be enlightened. And it will happen. How many more lifetimes? How much more suffering? It does not have to be. Suffering is needless when you wake up. Without this vision, like he said, the people suffer needlessly. The people perish. The people heart faint from all of the images of this world, from all of the false images that would teach us otherwise. In his rebirth is the world reborn. In his rebirth is the world made anew. When we wake up to the reality of our true identity in God everything becomes new. Everything becomes useful. Everything becomes, like he said, pleasure forevermore. Everything you realize that you have all things, that all things are yours, all things are ours, like the Apostle Paul said. I am not going to get to my lesson today because I was inspired to share on this subject of who are God's teachers. I don't know why someone needed to hear that. I did, number one. I did for number one. And if you're listening, you did too. And so tomorrow we'll return to workbook lesson 296. You know what the workbook lesson is under 296? I'll say it. It is that the Spirit of God speaks through me today. That's the lesson, that the Spirit of God speaks through me today. So this lesson that I've just completed, that was spoken through me, it was the Holy Spirit's direction. I just showed up here prepared for 296, and he said, we want to talk a little bit about who's a teacher of God. Why? Because it's important that you know what a true teacher of God is, so you can what? So you make sure that you are listening to the things that are freely given to us by God, so that you will be assured of your guiltlessness, so you can be assured of your innocence. You don't have to be confused by all the sights and all of the sounds and all of the confusion that is out in the world. That you don't have to be confused by someone that may not even be healed themselves, and they're out trying to heal others. They call unhealed healers. And so their message won't be about your guiltlessness and your sinlessness and your innocence. But it will be a message of separation. Not a message of oneness. But I am here as a witness, as a testimony, as the evidence of the thing that all humanity hoped for. The substance of what has been hoped for. I am him as the evidence of the thing that is not seen. That we are the creation of God, and we remain that way. Created in holiness, sinlessness, guiltlessness, holy innocent. Even God spoke through the Apostle Paul when he wrote in Ephesians chapter 1 that before the foundation of the world, it was predetermined that we would be holy and without blame. See that? We would be holy and blameless. That's what it says here, that the core message is the Son of God is guiltless. And in his innocence is his salvation. Your salvation is in nothing else but your innocence. Nothing else is required. We just need to know that we remain as God created us, just like himself or herself or itself. Not as a gender, not as a body, not as a form, but formless and timeless and infinite and impersonal and self-aware. That is the core message. That is the theme of all teachers of God. Notice now, teachers of God, not teachers about God, but teachers of God. Those that have chose and embraced the one will of God. And they see that their interest is the same as all humanity. There is no difference. There are no labels. There is but the one race. There is but the one gender. There is but the one nation. There is but the one world. There is but the one life. There is but the one love. There is but the one God. And so we say God is. And we cease to speak. Because there is nothing else. And you are part of that God is. You're not a part of that is nothing else. But you are a part of the God is. And so you can cease to speak. You don't have to justify who you are. You don't have to validate the truth. You just let your light shine. You just do everything from a place of love, because love is what you are. And the energy and the reality of that energy and the one will and the reality of that one will, it shall prevail. It shall prevail. And you prevail with it, because that is all it is. And so it is. And until tomorrow, have a great day. How sweet it is to be loved by love. We'll see you on tomorrow. Bye-bye.